The Pentagon has admitted that a US drone strike carried out in Kabul in the days before US troops pulled out of Afghanistan killed 10 innocent civilians, including 7 children. The victims were an aid worker and 9 members of his family. Well, Secunda Kamani is in the Afghan capital, Kabul, for us tonight. Secunda, you actually saw the aftermath of that drone strike, didn't you?
That's right, Clive. We were there the morning after the strike and it was a terrible scene. Family members combing through the wreckage, searching for remains of their loved ones so they could try and bury them. They were, of course, utterly distraught, also furious at the suggestion they had anything to do with ISIS. In fact, a number of those family members who were killed had worked with, as you say, American aid organizations, American forces even in Afghanistan. The family had been hoping to be evacuated out to America. This is an incredibly grim way to bring an end to this chapter of American involvement in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, here there's a deepening economic crisis, also increasing concern about whether the Taliban will respect women's rights or not. They seem to have today replaced the Women Affairs Ministry with a ministry for the promotion of virtue and prevention of vice that has a very notorious reputation from their previous stint in power. At the same time, the Taliban seem to be reaching out to a number of former government employees, trying to encourage them to come back to work. Here's our report, filmed by my colleague cameraman Malik Mudassar in the northern city of Mazar-e-Sharif. Lifting off, the Taliban's new air force. On board, their fighters. In the cockpit, their former enemies, pilots from the previous government. The fleet, now under the Taliban's control, includes fighter planes, originally donated by America. Dozens of pilots fled abroad as the Taliban took over, in fear of their lives, taking their aircraft with them. These helicopters launched a lot of attacks against the Taliban. That's right, isn't it? But as the group announced an amnesty, others decided to stay on.
It's never flown before?
You're both sitting here very calmly, but do you recognize that it's quite a strange situation for two people who were trying to kill each other now to be working together?
No, the Afghanistan Fatha, the Afghanistan Azadi, da muzraki tiradil. خو داسې چې سبا به بیرته بیا موږ د دې خلکو سره ناست یاستو بیا به خدمت سره کوو نو دا مو هم زړه ته ولیده ځکه چې موږ پوهیږو چې دا موږ خپل د وطن خلک دي.
این یک روز آمدنی بود حتما. این نبود که مثال بگویم که والا تا ابد اینا به یک جنا میرن و ما به دیگه جنا میریم.
Elsewhere, the political transition is far less smooth. Foreign reserves are frozen as the international community weighs up how to support Afghans, but not the Taliban. Banks have restricted cash withdrawals. Second-hand markets have sprung up across the country. The war might have come to an end, but this is where you see the utter desperation that so many Afghans are living in right now. Most of this market didn't even exist a month ago. Now it's full of people trying to sell whatever household possessions they can just to put food on the table for their families.
اینمی کالای محفلی اولادا کوین بود کالای تویشان دیگه کالای جل بود دیگه کی میخره و اینمی کالای نوشانه کشیدم گفتم باش که میره بفروشم خوب سرداشه و کار روغن برنج بگیریم یک 5 تا نان بگیریم.
Most public sector employees weren't even paid their salaries in the last months of the previous government. Now they have no idea when or if they will be paid again. You were still working but you didn't get salary? This teacher has already sold whatever she can. The transition of power in Afghanistan was much less bloody than many had feared. But half the country was already in dire need, and the struggle to survive is becoming even harder. Secunda Kamani, BBC News, Mazar.